I'm Emma, 34 years old, a financial consultant in Chicago. I've been married to David for 7 years, but today I want to tell you a story not about our love, but about his family. The people who haven't invited me to a single family event, not Christmas, not Thanksgiving, not even birthdays, for the past 5 years. I used to try to connect with them, throwing parties, buying gifts, but they slowly pushed me out of their lives. So I built a company and held a grand launch party, invited friends and extended relatives, but didn't invite my in-laws. A week later, they yelled, "How dare you embarrass us like that?" I just smiled and looked at them. I hope you love this story. If it hits home, give the video a like, share it with friends, and subscribe with notifications on for more stories of strength and resilience. Let's begin. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through Twitter on a typical Saturday night when I saw Chloe's Christmas post. In the photo, the entire family, Margaret, Richard, Liam, and even David, my husband, stood beaming by the Christmas tree, smiles wide and bright. Chloe, 27, was showing off a sparkly necklace that looked expensive. The caption read, "Best Christmas ever with the fam. So grateful for these people." The fam, right? I'm 34, live in the same city as them, and I wasn't there. Just like I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving 2 months ago, or any holiday for the past 5 years. You know what's crazy? I used to be the one who organized everything. I met David at a finance conference almost 10 years ago. He was the type who knew how to make things pleasant for strangers. When we got married, I thought I was lucky. His family seemed warm, polite, and very close-knit, something an orphan like me always longed for. His mom, Margaret, always had fresh flowers on the dinner table. His dad, Richard, liked to use flowery language to talk about tradition. Liam, David's older brother, was a successful businessman. Chloe, the youngest, was dazzling like a magazine cover, always full of stories to tell. I remember being eager to become part of that circle. In the early days of our marriage, I tried to fit in with David's family. I called them weekly, made desserts for Thanksgiving, called to ask what kind of wine his mom preferred, bought embroidered napkins as gifts. They received it all with politeness, smiles, thank yous. I thought I was the glue holding people together. But then, things changed. The invitations stopped coming. At first, I thought it was a mix-up. Maybe they thought Liam had told me or David had mentioned it. So I still showed up, and they acted surprised, but not exactly unwelcoming. Then things started to feel off. I'd call to ask what time dinner was, and Margaret would give vague replies. "Oh, just a small thing this year," or "We weren't sure if you'd be free." But then I'd see photos on Twitter, full family gatherings, sometimes with distant relatives I hadn't seen in ages. I blamed myself. Maybe I hadn't been sociable enough. But year after year, they still celebrated everything without me. I asked David. He just shrugged. "Mom said it's just a small meal. Don't worry about it." I remember David telling me about his mom, how she cried when he decided to go to college in another city. "She needed me close," he used to say, his voice heavy with guilt. I thought it was just an old story, but now I see it clearly. David never truly stepped out of his mother's shadow. Back then, I didn't know some wounds don't come from being yelled at, but from being erased in silence. And what hurt me most? David, my husband. He knew they were excluding me, but still chose to side with his family. David began spending more nights at his mom's. They said it was to take care of Dad, but no one ever asked if I wanted to come. Family dinners became something I only saw in photos, and David, instead of pulling me closer, grew distant, as if I were just an extra he had to carry in this marriage, not a real part of the family. The worst moment came 3 years ago, on Father's Day. I'll never forget it because that was when I saw the truth. I called Margaret 3 days before, said I wanted to bring tulips for Richard and join them for dinner. "Oh," she said, then paused. "All right, you can come." Not enthusiastic, but I didn't care. I bought a bright bouquet of tulips, wore the dress Margaret once complimented, and drove 40 minutes to their house in the suburbs. When I got there, the house was empty. I stood on the porch, flowers in hand, rang the bell for 15 minutes, feeling like a fool. I called David, no answer. Margaret, Richard, Chloe, straight to voicemail. I drove home, confused and hurt, thinking maybe there was an emergency, maybe someone was sick. I kept the tulips in a vase on the dining table, waiting for an explanation. Then Chloe posted a photo on Twitter. Amazing Father's Day dinner at the Italian place. The whole family was there, laughing over risotto and wine. Margaret had a flower pinned to her shirt. Not my tulips, a different kind. David stood next to Richard, arm around his father's shoulder, smiling like no one was missing. They had planned it, made reservations, dressed up, and no one thought to tell me. I stared at that photo for 5 minutes. I didn't cry or scream, just felt empty. I stood up, went to the kitchen, grabbed a bottle of water, turned the light on. Office on. Office. I didn't know what I was doing. Then I leaned against the fridge and whispered, like someone waking from a spell, "I don't need to wait anymore." That was when I stopped trying. I still sent birthday texts because I didn't want to become heartless, but I stopped asking about holidays. I stopped asking when we'd see each other again. And you know what? No one noticed. No one called to ask where I was or why I stopped showing up at family parties. Well, except on my birthday. They forgot that too, year after year. Liam's birthday is in April. Big dinner at a fancy restaurant. Chloe's is in August. Wild pool party at Margaret and Richard's place. My mother-in-law's birthday in March. Father-in-law's in October. Always a big deal. Me? My birthday is in June. Total silence. Last year, my 33rd birthday fell on a Sunday. I waited all day, hoping for a call, a text. By 8 p.m., I ordered takeout and watched Netflix alone. Around 10, David sent a text. "I'm sorry, babe. Working late tonight. Gonna stay at the office. It's been a busy stretch." Busy, right? Like he was so busy all Sunday he forgot his wife existed. So now, here I am, staring at Chloe's perfect Christmas post, and something in me just snapped. Not in anger, but in clarity. Like I suddenly saw the whole picture instead of obsessing over what I might have done wrong. I don't need this. I don't need to keep hoping they'll remember me. I don't need to keep feeling guilty just because my in-laws treat me like a leftover. You know what I do need? My own space, my own life. And, if I want, my own Christmas tree. I closed Twitter and opened my contacts. Mia, my best friend from college, the one who once said, "The day you stop pausing your life for other people is the day the world better watch out." She's a venture capitalist now, always telling me to call if I ever want to start something. I called Mia. I was ready. She picked up after one ring. "Emma, it's been too long. How are you?" "Good. Actually, great. Listen, remember how you said you'd help me launch a company if I was ever serious? I'm serious." "Are you kidding? That's amazing. What do you want to build?" I leaned back into the couch, smiling for the first time all evening. Something big, not flashy, but real. We talked for a few minutes about the idea. A household budgeting app, built from my financial consulting experience. I had saved for years, mostly because I didn't spend much on family vacations or shared gifts, like people with close families often do. My savings account was, frankly, impressive. After I hung up, I felt this strange lightness in my chest, like I'd been holding my breath for 5 years and finally remembered how to exhale. I quit my job, cleared out the savings from 12 years of consulting. The next 6 months passed like a dream. Mia helped me connect with investors, and I used my skills from managing at a top-tier firm to build the startup. I rented a small office in downtown Chicago. Every morning, I got there at 7, left at 10 p.m., ate cold sandwiches for lunch, and talked to myself more than to David. But for the first time in my marriage, I felt real joy. The company grew fast, attracted clients, and caught media attention. David didn't ask much. Sometimes, when I got home at 10:30, he was already asleep, or at Margaret's. On the rare days we crossed paths in the kitchen, he'd just ask, "So, how much are you making from that company now?" I'd look up from the espresso machine, say nothing. That question was like an invisible hook, keeping him in the house, but not in my life. 6 months later, we had over 12,000 app downloads and signed a pilot deal with a regional financial services provider. A trade magazine wrote a short article about us. "The woman making household budgets transparent." I read the headline 3 times, then burst into tears. I booked a beautiful venue on Randolph Street for the launch event. The main room had a chandelier, polished hardwood floors, and a giant LED screen where my speech would play. I sent digital invites to everyone who had ever believed in me. Former colleagues, MBA classmates, even the professor who once criticized my thesis for being too emotional. I invited Grace, my husband's distant cousin, the only one who still texted to check on me after holidays. But I didn't invite my in-laws. And I didn't invite David, even though legally, he was still my husband. This launch wasn't just an event, it was a declaration. My way of proving I could build something meaningful without their approval. I stood in my new office, keys in hand, and thought, my company. The words still felt foreign, but they were mine. The company launch felt like a dream, lively, warm, almost surreal. The venue glowed with golden light, wine glasses sparkling in people's hands, and a live band played soft jazz in the background. I wore a square-neck black velvet dress, simple but strong. Light makeup. Hair pulled up in a high bun. I stood on the small stage, heart pounding, not from nerves this time, but from excitement. In my speech, I talked about the journey of building the company, about creating an app that helps people manage household finances, and about dreaming of a future that belongs entirely to me. The crowd erupted in applause, and I felt like I was standing on top of the world. Midway through the party, my cousin-in-law Grace pulled me aside, holding a wine glass, eyes full of curiosity. "Emma, this party is amazing, but where's David? And his parents? Liam? Chloe? I don't see anyone from his side." I looked her straight in the eye, no hesitation. They weren't invited. For 5 years, my in-laws didn't invite me to anything. Not Christmas, not Thanksgiving, not birthdays. David always knew, but he chose to side with them. Grace's mouth dropped open, her wine glass nearly slipping. "You're serious? You're not joking?" I nodded. Not joking. I stopped waiting for them to remember me. Grace grabbed my hand, her voice firm. "I'm going to talk to the rest of the family. They need to know what's been going on." I smiled, unsure whether it would change anything, but warmed by the fact that someone actually cared. The party went on until 9 p.m. When the last guest left, I stayed behind in the now quiet venue, watching the company logo still glowing on the LED screens. A deep calm settled in me, like I had finally found where I belonged, not with my in-laws, but among those who truly saw me. 3 days later, my phone started ringing. Margaret, my mother-in-law, left a voicemail, her voice sharp and shrill. Emma, how dare you embarrass us in front of the whole extended family like that? Liam texted, "Now everyone thinks we hate you. What the hell are you doing?" Chloe sent a long message. "Aunties kept asking why you didn't invite us. So humiliating. Do you even know how bad you made us look?" Then David called. His voice was cold. "Emma, you hurt them. You should apologize. This is family stuff. You didn't have to air it out publicly." I sat on the couch reading those messages and laughed out loud. Not out of joy, but a bitter, hollow laugh. They weren't upset about hurting me. They were upset about being exposed, because now the relatives were asking questions. They didn't care about me. They cared about their image. The next morning, I was making coffee when the doorbell rang sharply. I looked through the peephole and my heart stuttered. My in-laws, Margaret, Richard, Liam, Chloe, and David, all standing at my doorstep. I opened the door slowly, voice calm. "What's going on?" Margaret didn't answer. She stormed into the house like she owned it, dragging the rest of them with her. David came in last, eyes lowered, saying nothing. Margaret started shouting, "Emma, how could you humiliate us like this? Your grandparents keep calling, asking why we never invited you to the family gatherings. Do you know how badly this reflects on us?" Liam crossed his arms and glared. Chloe wandered around the living room, scanning my things like she was taking inventory. Richard sat quietly on the couch, just like always. I stood in the middle of the room. I looked at Margaret, then turned to David and asked, "Why didn't any of you invite me to Christmas, Thanksgiving, or birthdays for the past 5 years? David, you knew, didn't you? And you let it happen. Why?" David stood there, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the window like he wished he could vanish. For a second, he turned to me, lips pressed tight like he was about to say something. I waited for an apology, an explanation, anything. But then he dropped his head, shoulders trembling slightly, and looked away. As always, he chose silence. Margaret stammered, "Well, you were always so busy with work." I let out a bitter laugh. "Busy? Do any of you even know what I do? Has any one of you ever remembered my birthday?" No one answered. Margaret looked at Richard. Richard looked at Liam. Liam looked at Chloe. Chloe bit her nail, eyes glued to the floor. David stood there, still staring out the window like he wasn't even in the room. Not a single one of them knew what company I worked for or what day my birthday fell on. Finally, I stepped back, hand resting on the door. "I don't need you to feel whole. David, if you want to stay with your family, be my guest." Margaret's mouth dropped, her face flushing red. "Aren't you going to at least offer us some tea?" I replied, voice cold as ice. "I've given you more than you ever gave me. At least, I'm letting you leave with some dignity. Unlike the day you left me standing outside your house with a bouquet of tulips." They filed out in silence, none of them daring to look at me. David was the last to leave. He paused for a second like he might say something, but just shook his head and walked away. I closed the door behind them, leaned against it, and listened to them arguing outside before their car pulled away. Inside my chest, I felt a strange kind of relief, like I had just cleared out a smoke-filled room I once thought I'd have to live in forever. After my in-laws left, I thought silence would be the only thing that followed. I figured they'd sulk for a while, then pretend nothing ever happened, and honestly, I was fine with that. But turns out, they weren't ready to give up that easily. 3 days later, an email from Richard popped into my inbox. Subject line, "Family dinner invitation." I almost deleted it on the spot, but curiosity won. "Dear Emma, Margaret and I would love to have you over for dinner this Sunday at 6 p.m. We'll be serving roast beef and mashed potatoes. Hope to see you." Richard, no explanation, no apology. Just a short, polite, flat message, like he was inviting a business partner. I deleted it without replying. The next day, Chloe texted, "Want to go shopping this weekend? Macy's is having a big sale, just like old times." Old times? We hadn't gone shopping together since I was first married. I ignored the message. Then Liam got more creative. He sent an email with old photos, me and David on our wedding day, smiling brightly, and another one of us on a camping trip when we were newly dating. The email said, "Remember how close we all used to be?" I miss those days. I stared at the pictures for a long time. We were close once, but that was before they decided I didn't matter anymore. I didn't reply to Liam either. A week went by. They kept trying. Margaret left a voicemail asking if I needed anything for the new company. Richard sent another dinner invitation. Chloe called twice. David started showing up at home more. One night, he sat down next to me while I was reviewing a financial report, his voice quiet. "I didn't realize things had gotten so bad. I'm sorry." But his tone was flat, like he was saying it just to get it over with. I looked at him. Same familiar eyes, but no warmth left in them. I thought maybe they finally understood, until Margaret showed up at my office. This time she came alone, looking smaller, not angry anymore, but desperate. "Emma, can we talk? I'm sorry for everything. I want to fix it." She looked at me with sad eyes, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "My birthday's coming up," she continued. "I'm planning a small dinner at home. Just close family. No extended relatives. I really want you to be there, Emma. It means a lot to me." Close family sounded strange, because for the past 5 years, their close family never included me. "I want to rebuild the relationship," she said, her voice full of hope. "I want you to know you matter to us." Despite everything, she was still my mother-in-law, the one who once taught me how to bake cookies and comforted me when work overwhelmed me. I looked her in the eye. "Just family?" "Yes, just the people who really matter." "All right," I heard myself say. "I'll come." Margaret smiled brightly, stepped forward, and hugged me tight. I let her. I could smell her familiar perfume. In that moment, it felt like I was back in the early days of marriage, when I still believed we'd be a real family. "Thank you," she said. "This means so much to me." After she left, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they really had realized their mistake. Maybe almost losing me made them understand how they'd taken me for granted. Maybe, just maybe, David and I could still salvage something. I spent the week thinking about a gift for Margaret. I finally picked out a sky blue silk scarf dotted with tiny silver stars from a boutique downtown. It cost more than I usually spend, but it felt like a gesture of peace. 3 days before her birthday, I was wrapping up a client report when my phone rang. Grace's name popped up. "Emma, I'm so excited," she said. "Mom just spoke with Margaret. She said you're coming to the birthday party. I'm so happy you've made up with the family." My stomach dropped. "Birthday party? I thought it was just a family dinner." "Oh no," Grace replied. "Margaret invited everyone, extended relatives, close friends, a big crowd. She said she wants to show everyone the family's back together now. One big happy clan." I hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in my car in the parking lot, shaking with anger for 20 minutes. They hadn't changed at all. They didn't want to rebuild a relationship. They wanted to use me as a prop, to parade me around so no one would question why I'd been excluded. All of it, just to protect their image. I drove to the store and returned the silk scarf. The cashier asked if there was anything wrong with it. "No," I said. "It's perfect. I just chose the wrong person to give it to. David knew about the plan but didn't tell me." That night, as he stepped out of the bathroom, I was sitting at the edge of the bed, hands resting on my thighs, the warm yellow glow of the bedside lamp casting a soft light over the white sheets. I asked, calmly, "You knew your mom invited everyone, didn't you?" David paused, then nodded. I thought if you came, everything would go more smoothly." I looked at him, not with anger for the first time, but with acceptance. "You didn't want to upset your mother. What about me?" He didn't answer. I stood up, opened the door, and walked out, leaving him in a room we had lived in together but never truly shared. I remembered the David from the early days, the man who danced with me under a street lamp in the rain in Chicago, who laughed when I spilled coffee on his shirt. That man was gone, replaced by someone who looked to his mother before answering my questions. I didn't know where he'd gone, but I knew I couldn't keep waiting for him to come back. That night, I thought about divorce. Not in a fit of rage, but like a clear, clean option. Like cutting loose an investment that had been rotting for years. I didn't call Margaret to say I wasn't coming. No text, no email. If she wanted to use me as a prop in her little performance, let her sit there wondering where her lead actress went. On Margaret's birthday, I turned off my phone at 5 p.m. and made myself a good dinner. Roasted salmon, fresh greens, a glass of wine. I sat out on the patio and watched the sunset. At 6:30, I turned my phone back on. 15 missed calls, 7 voicemails, dozens of texts. First message from Margaret at 6:05. "Emma, where are you?" Everyone's waiting. Second at 6:15. "Emma, call me back. People are asking about you." By 6:45, Richard called. "Your mom's very upset. You need to come now." Liam texted at 7:00. "What the hell are you doing? Get here, she's crying." Chloe at 7:15. "Everyone's staring at us. This is humiliating." "Come," David messaged. "Emma, you're overreacting. Come here now." At 7:30, the phone rang again. It was Grace. This time, I picked up. "Emma, where are you?" she asked. "I'm at Margaret's party. People are wondering where you are. Margaret keeps checking her phone in the door." "Grace," I said, "put me on speaker so everyone can hear." There was a rustle, then Grace's voice from a distance. "Okay, you're on speaker. Everyone's listening." I took a deep breath. "Hi, everyone. I want you all to know that when Margaret invited me to this party, she said it would be a small family dinner. She never mentioned that you'd all be here." I could hear murmurs in the background. For 5 years, my in-laws never invited me to a single holiday or birthday. David, my husband, always knew but chose to side with them. I'm not here tonight because I don't want to pretend we're a happy family anymore. They chose to exclude me long ago, and now I choose myself. Goodbye. I hung up. The phone started ringing again immediately, but I shut it off. I poured another glass of wine and sat back outside. Tomorrow, maybe Grace would call and tell me what happened after I hung up. But tonight, I just wanted to enjoy the quiet. I slept better than I had in months. On Monday morning, I woke up with a strange sense of lightness, like I had finally set down a heavy bag I'd been carrying for 5 years. I looked out the office window, thought about David, about our marriage, and for the first time, I knew. If he couldn't stand beside me, I would choose to walk away. Not just from his family, but from him. The next morning, while I was checking emails in my office, there was a soft knock at the door. Grace stood there, holding a box of homemade ham sandwiches, her smile warm but a little worried. "Emma, I brought you lunch," she said, sitting down across from me. "And I have to tell you what happened at Margaret's birthday party after your call." I raised an eyebrow, inviting her to go on. Grace said that after I hung up, the whole room fell into stunned silence. Relatives began asking questions, sharp, direct ones. Aunt Helen asked Richard point blank, "Why didn't you invite Emma to Christmas?" And Uncle turned to Margaret. "Is it true what she said? Did you really cut her out?" Margaret fumbled, saying I was too busy with work, but no one believed her. Their eyes were full of suspicion, and many quietly left the party early, leaving the in-laws sitting there, sullen-faced beside a birthday cake no one touched. Grace took my hand. "I'm proud of you for speaking the truth." That night, David called. His voice was shaky. "Emma, I'm sorry. I didn't want things to go this far. Can you come back to me? We can fix this." I stood by my office window, looking out at the sparkling lights of Chicago, and answered calmly, "David, you chose your family a long time ago. Now I'm choosing myself." I hung up, feeling like a weight had been lifted off my chest. The following week, I filed for divorce. David didn't protest. He just quietly signed the papers, like he knew there was nothing left to save. I poured myself into the company. Just a few months later, we signed a major deal with a national bank, and I was invited to speak at a tech conference in San Francisco. Standing on stage, in front of hundreds of people, I talked about the journey of building our app. But deep down, I knew I was really telling the story of finding myself. I was no longer the Emma from 5 years ago, the one waiting for an invitation, a birthday text, or a hug from her in-laws. I was a new Emma, strong, independent, and sure of her worth. I built a new family out of people who truly cared. Grace became a close friend, often dropping by the office with coffee and bad jokes. My coworkers, Mia, Tom, and the whole team, started hosting cozy dinners after work. My 35th birthday this June wasn't marked by silence. My phone overflowed with birthday messages. Grace sent a bright bouquet of carnations. Mia brought a chocolate cake. Tom and the team threw a surprise party right in the office, with balloons and live music. I blew out the candles, laughing so hard my cheeks hurt. And for the first time in years, I didn't check my phone for a message from David or his family. Like every year, they stayed silent. But this time, I didn't care. I began creating my own traditions. That Christmas, I hosted a party at the office, with a tree glowing with lights and a potluck dinner. Grace made mashed potatoes. Mia brought wine. Tom told terrible jokes that had everyone in stitches. We did a gift exchange, and when I unwrapped Grace's present, a framed photo of me speaking at the conference, I nearly cried. "You inspire me," she said. I hugged Grace, feeling the warmth of a family not built by blood, but by love. Now, sitting on the sofa in my apartment, looking out the window at a brilliantly lit Chicago, I realize something. My worth doesn't depend on whether my in-laws invite me to a party or whether David remembers my birthday. My worth lies in what I've built, this company, these friendships, this joyful life. I used to think I lacked something, that I must have done something wrong to be excluded. But now I understand. The problem wasn't me. The problem was that they chose not to see me, and I spent too long trying to change that. Now, I choose to see myself. I host dinner parties with friends, travel with Grace, and dream about new deals, new conferences. My life isn't perfect, but it's mine, real, bright, and full of love. My in-laws can keep their perfect little bubble where I don't exist. As for me, I'll keep this life, where I'm at the center. And honestly, I think I made the better choice.